You know how sometimes you just want to get up to speed on a place, like instantly?
Yeah, totally.
Well, today, that place is Tallahassee, Florida. And this deep dive, it's basically your shortcut to really knowing what's what in the Sunshine State's capital.
That's right. We've got this really interesting list you shared. 12 best things to do in Tallahassee. Seems like it pulls from Google reviews, local knowledge.
And some personal takes too, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And look, our goal here isn't just to, read off a list. We want to dig in a bit, find the really fascinating bits, and give you a proper feel for Tallahassee, something more than just the usual travel guide stuff.
With those aha moments, as you said.
Exactly. So let's get into it. First thing that really jumps out is just how much history and culture seems to be right there on the surface in Tallahassee.
Oh, absolutely. Let's start with the Florida Capitol building, built way back in 1845. Can you even picture that?
Wow, 1845.
And here's the kicker, it nearly wasn't there for us to talk about. Yeah, there was a serious move to actually demolish it. So the fact that people, locals, thought to save it, that tells you something, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Suggests a community that really values its own story.
Precisely. And inside, you've got the Historic Capitol Museum. Sounds like a great walkthrough of that exact story.
3 floors, apparently.
Yeah.
Covering Florida's environment, the civil rights movement.
And even pre-statehood history, yeah.
Yeah.
Really digging into the Native American heritage as well.
Oh, interesting.
Plus, they've got a replica of the Liberty Bell, which is kind of a neat little connection to the bigger national picture.
Right. But for that really early history, the source points towards Mission San Luis, right?
Mission San Luis.
Yeah.
That takes you back to 1656.
1656.
Yeah. It was this settlement where you had the Appalachian people and Spanish colonizers living, well, side by side until about 1704.
Just think about that for a second. 2 completely different cultures meeting right there.
And what's absolutely wild is the number of artifacts they've unearthed. Something like 950,000 items.
Whoa, nearly 1 million.
I know. Pieces of clothing, pots, cookware. It just makes the daily life of people centuries ago feel so much more real.
Yeah, you can almost picture it.
And they've actually rebuilt the council house and the mission church so you can physically see what the settlement might have looked like.
Yeah.
It gives you this incredible window into early Florida, the relationships, the trade, the conflicts.
Oh, that complex interaction.
Exactly, between the Europeans and the Native American tribes.
Okay, and sticking with indigenous history for a moment, there's also Lake Jackson Mounds State Park.
Yes, another key spot mentioned. These are temple mounds built between roughly 1200 and 1500 AD.
So even earlier.
Right, by the Lake Jackson Indians. And what's significant is this was part of the Southeastern Ceremonial Complex. So it tells us these people weren't isolated. They were part of this larger cultural network across the region.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And the source suggests checking out the Museum of Florida History for more on this.
Yeah, specifically their Forever Changed La Florida exhibit. Sounds like it has murals, artifacts, a really visual way to connect with that past. They even recommend the Native American Heritage Trail group if you want to, go even deeper.
So you definitely get this feeling of layers of history in Tallahassee, from ancient indigenous sites right up to the state government. But it's clearly not just about history. The city seems really connected to its natural surroundings, too.
Oh, for sure. If you're into nature, the Tallahassee Museum sounds like a great spot. 52 acres of trails.
Which is already nice.
But then they add zip lines and, get this, colorful dinosaur sculptures.
Dinosaurs, okay, that's unexpected.
Right, a bit quirky.
Yeah.
But beyond that fun stuff, it sounds like a fantastic place to see actual Florida wildlife.
Like Florida panthers and black bears.
Yeah, and you can see them from these elevated boardwalks, so it feels safe, but still pretty natural. And those zip lines and canopy tours, that's definitely a more adventurous way to experience the environment.
Okay, cool. And then there's St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge. That sounds massive.
It is. Created back in 1931, originally for migratory birds, but now it's over 80,000 acres, a huge biological hotspot.
80,000 acres.
Yeah. It's amazing that it's been protected for so long and is still so vital. And it's not just birds. The source says you might even spot endangered manatees there.
Manatees, wow.
And even these elusive flatwood salamanders. So the tip to bring binoculars and bird guides definitely seems like good advice if you're heading there.
Sounds like serious nature watching potential. Now, shifting gears a bit, airboat tours. That sounds exhilarating.
Doesn't it? Zooming over lakes and swamps at like over 20 miles an hour. Companies like Southern Airboat Charters doing these tours.
Must feel like you're flying over the water.
Yeah, and the source really highlights that feeling, being deep in the wilderness, seeing gators up close, even though you're technically still in a capital city. It's quite the contrast.
A unique Florida experience, for sure. But if you prefer something maybe a little calmer.
Tallahassee seems to have plenty of parks for that, too. Lake Ella and Fred Drake Park get mentioned for just, easy walks, watching water birds.
Nice and chill.
And then for something more substantial, there's the Tallahassee-St. Mark's Historic Railroad State Trail. Over 20 miles for hiking or biking through woodlands.
20 miles! Okay, that's a proper trail.
Definitely. And we can't forget Alfred B. McClay Garden State Park. The description sounds amazing. Botanical gardens, these turquoise waters they mentioned, sculptures.
Oh, sculptures too.
Yeah.
Oh.
And even a historic house museum on the grounds, plus pools at the Lakeside Pavilion. It really seems to offer a bit of everything in one park.
It sounds beautiful. Okay, so we've covered a lot of history, a lot of nature, but Tallahassee also seems to have some unique experiences that aren't just the standard stuff, like the Automobile Museum.
Right. Even if you're not a massive car person, this place sounds intriguing. It's been around since '96, showcasing hundreds of vehicles.
Including really historic ones.
Yeah, like the Ford Model T, original Mustangs, and even some of the first amphibious vehicles ever made, which is pretty wild.
Amphibious cars. Okay.
And you can apparently learn a lot from the experts there, hear the stories behind the cars. Plus, they have classic speedboats and other collectibles, too. It's not just cars.
Good tip about visiting during the week to miss the crowds, too.
Always helpful.
Okay.
Then there's the Railroad Square Art Park District. This sounds really cool.
Yeah, described as a creative hub in an old industrial park from WWII.
Exactly, near FSU.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got something like 70 shops and studios, local artists, artisans.
So you can find unique stuff there. Homemade gifts, paintings.
Vintage clothes, too, apparently. And the whole vibe sounds lively. Live music sometimes, craft beer, food trucks. Just a great place to hang out and soak up that local creative energy.
Sounds like my kind of place. And speaking of FSU, Florida State University, the campus itself gets a mention.
Yeah, sounds like a really beautiful classic campus. Red brick buildings, big old trees.
The quintessential college look.
Totally. And the source suggests taking a walking tour to see buildings dating back to 1897. Plus, there's the university's Museum of Fine Arts.
Oh, right.
And just relaxing by the Westcott Fountain on Landis Green sounds like a nice way to just soak in the campus atmosphere.
Definitely. Now, this next one caught my eye. Different ways to actually tour the city, not just a bus.
Yeah, like pedicab tours.
Mm-hmm.
With local guides who really know their stuff.
Right. And these historical tours by a group called Storied Paths, they cover a huge range Native American history right up to modern times.
And what seems great about these, for someone wanting that deeper understanding, is they promise to show you hidden gems, things you wouldn't normally see.
Get beyond the surface level.
Exactly, offering a stronger connection to the city's actual story.
And finally, Tallahassee seems to throw a good party. Lots of festivals mentioned.
It does seem to have a lively event calendar. The Harambe Festival at Florida A&M University sounds great, with steel bands and music.
Yeah, RIA Steel Band got a shout out.
And Pride in the Park at the Adderley Amphitheater. It really points to the city's diversity and its active community life.
Plus, they even mentioned fun stuff around Halloween and Christmas, like pub crawls and decorations. Sounds like a city that enjoys celebrating.
Definitely seems like it.
So when you pull it all together, Tallahassee feels like this really interesting blend. You can step back hundreds of years at Mission San Luis.
And then the next day, be buzzing across a swamp on an airboat.
Right. It's got these major historical sites right next to amazing natural areas, plus this vibrant art scene and the energy from the universities.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How many state capitals offer that kind of mix? It's not just government buildings and politics.
That's a great point. It feels like a capital with a lot more texture, maybe. History, nature, local culture, all woven together.
Absolutely. A really rich tapestry.
Well, hopefully for anyone listening who's been curious about Tallahassee, this deep dive has painted a much clearer, maybe more exciting picture of what Florida's capital is all about.
Yeah, there's clearly a lot there.
Definitely encourage you to dig deeper into any of these spots that caught your ear. Seems like there's plenty more to discover.